So now that we've finished our core and cavity for these pieces, let's go ahead and create the pattern for our mold design. In this case, we're going to go through and we can select the part first and add in values of how many instances, maybe a total value of separation. With this, we can choose our pattern type where we want X balancing. Look at our variable. Inherit from last pattern, we had a 90 and minus 90. And that's just making our core and cavities offset properly from the center line. So I'll go ahead and select OK there. And now I'm going to do the same thing for our bottom part. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to make that selection. We're going to make sure we turn on X balancing. How many instances, of course, at what distance do we want those at? Our variable tab, where we can inherit our information from our last design. So in this case, everything looks good. Simply hit OK. And now our patterns have been completely generated for us. Go through and define our gate locations. First thing I need to do is select our core and cavity tab. I do want to select the top piece of my phone that I'll be working on as a result of this. Now I want to define my gate location as my functionality I'd like to use. So I'm going to zoom into my part here, flip it around a little bit, and of course we'll get our zoom window. And I'm going to select an area for my gate location. I'm going to go ahead and select in the middle portion of this tab here. We initially get a base point. We can always define this point much better by selecting or changing our values in like our U and V locations or positions. So in this case it actually looked pretty good for the most part, and I'll just apply that now as my new gate location. So now with that being applied, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for our bottom. I'm going to go ahead and double click that on my part browser, get right into my gate location, and do a much similar task. Again, just rotate my model slightly and then go define that gate location. Again, I'm going to make the selection here roughly in the center of this, and then I'm going to fix it up a little bit just by tweaking it, making some nice even values for me. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that, and once we're done applying, we'll just click done to get out of the menu and back into our working model. Now that we have our gate locations defined, we can go ahead and start defining our runner system. To do this, we're going to start with the auto runner sketch. So in this case, what we need to do is select the work plane to be working on, plus define the type of runner system we're going to have. In this case, I'm going to select H balance. We have a few different patterns to choose from. Also some size adjustments you can make at the same time. So maybe I'd like that to be 60, and here 27. And also we can reposition this inside of our design at the same time and offset this properly within our models. And once I have this selected, I'm going to turn off my activate sketch edit and simply hit OK. So what this has done, it's pretty much put the sketch into our runner system for us. Now all we need to do is start building in the runner system itself. Now that we have the sketch in there, we can go ahead and select our runner system. With our runner, our main line or our main tube is going to be 6 millimeters. I'm going to choose circular and make that selection. So as you see, I'm selecting to the outside of the lines, so my slug positions are in their proper placement. Now I'm going to go ahead and make smaller runners headed towards the part. Again, just following through, making sure my slugs are pointed in the right direction, in this case towards the part. But on my smaller runners, I'm going to go ahead and make the changes to my slugs to be 0 in length. So with that done, I can simply hit apply. And we can see that our runner system has now been created inside of our part. So with our runner system defined, we can now add our actual gates in. We already selected our gate locations from earlier, so now we simply need to go through and build them into our design. We need to select what type of gate we're going to use. In this case, I'm going to choose tunnel, and I'm going to select one point. I am going to work with this, and I want it to be on my core side, and go ahead and make my selections as needed. made my gate selection. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this 270 degrees, and we can see it making the transition back to the runner system. So I'm going to simply go ahead and apply this, and we can apply that right into the design. We also have an option when we have more pockets and things like that to copy to all pockets at once. But in some cases, we enjoy a little bit more control inside of our design, and I can simply add that in. So the last order of business that we have inside of our design, of course, once we get to this point, is just creating our mold base entirely. So let's go ahead and move on to doing that. So now it's time to define our mold base. I'm going to simply go into my mold assembly tools, select on my mold base option, and it's going to bring up the library of components for me to choose from. In this case, I need to go ahead and first select the vendor and type I would like to use for my design. In this case, we're going to choose a DME, and we're going to make sure it's a type E. So I've made that selection. Need to choose my overall size of this mold base, and I don't want it custom, so I'm going to go through, make the necessary choices as needed, place reference placement point inside of my design environment, and simply hit OK. As we can see, our mold base has surrounded our cavity, and that's going to wrap it up for Chapter 2. So let's take a quick look at some of the things that we covered in Chapter 2.